It would have been 10 minutes ago, Scott.
Okay,
To the Sales Slap podcast, where we hit you with the hard truths, bold strategies, and expert insights you need to master the art of selling. And who's leading the charge? Meet your hosts, Rick Denley, Simon Hares, and Scott Donald. Get ready for real talk, expert advice, and game-changing strategies. Because in sales, you don't just play, you slap. Let's dive in.
Diving in today, unfortunately absent, is our incredible other co-host, Simon.
Look at that handsome devil. Just like how happy and handsome he is.
Bloody heck, I couldn't make it to the podcast today. And that's all right, because we've got an incredible guest here, and I want to tell you a bit about her. Helping CEOs and sales leaders in private mid-market companies reduce forecast volatility and leadership dependency by strengthening pipeline and decision-led revenue. She is the founder of the Sales Leader of Influence. Wow. And a returning guest, because you were so last time, back by popular demand. Say hi to everybody, Bernadette. Say hi, Bernadette.
Hey, guys. Thanks for the 3 votes to bring me back.
Well, there's only 2 votes, but we were able to convince Simon to have you come back.
We're super excited about it. And yeah, Simon, as we said, here he is here. He can't make it today. And I want to show you why. He's off-site doing some training right now at a really, really unique spot.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And I've always wanted to do zip lining as well. But this takes it to a whole nother level. Watch this video. I'm sorry, they're moving. That was really, I got to show it one more time.
Yeah, there's been some kind of a quarry in it. Yeah, and Simon's been sharing a lot of pictures. He's having a lot. And he's a returnee. He's been there 2 or 3 times now.
Right.
So they're bringing him back because he clearly adds value, and which is why Bernadette's back as well.
That's cool.
That's right.
So Bernadette, in your bio, and then what I'm reading here, there's a word that I think is interesting, and I would like you to unpack it a little bit. Is the idea of stabilizing revenue. Right? People always talk about increasing revenue, but you talk about stabilizing revenue. What's that about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you believe that the word stabilize means to start with?
Hey, wait a second. I'm the podcast host, Bernadette.
Turn it right back on you there.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me. This is my interpretation, and I won't do it justice. But I think what we tend to see, and what you're seeing, is organizations, their revenue is all over the place. Sometimes they're hitting their numbers, sometimes they're blowing it up, but there's no predictability to it. And there's a number of reasons for that, which I won't steal your thunder, but I imagine that your experience and expertise is going to come in there and help them make it more consistent and more predictable, i.e. stabilize it. How do they do?
All right, Bernadette, clean that up.
Yeah, clean that mess up.
and this is all part of it as well. It's like understanding what somebody means when they have a challenge, and not jumping in and filling the assumptions.
Yes.
With what you believe that the answer should be, or what their challenges are. Mm-hmm. And a big part of where I'm really focusing now, because we have hit different times. I think we're all recognizing that now. And it's more than just AI. It is this complete about face where people, leaders especially, are. And I'm not going to use the word struggling from a drowning, help me perspective, but they're in this space of almost, when I say confusion, it's like, shit, what do I do next? I'm just calling it. And so how do we reduce this pressure? And how do we help them reduce this pressure so that they can gain more clarity? And they can gain momentum, and they can actually create this environment where they can predict revenue a little bit clearer.
Clarity, momentum, and predictability. Those are 3 things that I would think any organization and a sales leader would love to have from their staff.
And I felt like that. I felt like that's what I said. I think Bernadette did clean it up, but I think I nailed it. I think I deserve some credit. Right.
We're glad you think that, Scott.
You absolutely did.
So how can they go about that clarity, momentum, and that type of thing that you're mentioning right here, Bernadette. How do we do that?
So here's my take on it, and so this is my point of view, and my point of view is, I've really taken time out this past year to dive deep and to observe and to have conversations with CEOs, with sales leaders in environments where they have been open and honest. And I've also kind of sat back and watched. And I've also dug deep into my lived experiences and kind of peeled the onion back from my, I guess, life as a CEO, as a sales leader, as a confidant to CEOs and sales leaders. And I've been privileged to be able to get inside the hearts, minds, and almost souls of these leaders because of the role that I've played. So I understand and have been on, the other side of the desk where they've shared with me what really does keep them up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And so taking all of that and taking my lived experiences, as having gone through bankruptcy, as being a CEO, as being as kind of having an accident, falling sick, having to lose a business, being out of operation for all of 2009, having staff, all of that type of stuff, bringing it all to the fore, being in corporate Australia, bringing all of that to the fore. I've put it all together, and I thought, okay, how can we reduce pressure? How can we help these leaders gain that extra clarity and gain momentum in order to help them predict better results, better outcomes when it comes to revenue with their sales teams? And so becoming a sales leader of influence cannot start purely with the pipeline. It cannot start with strategy. It cannot start with execution. It has to start with understanding, and I'm not going down the typical mindset track, because I think we've passed that as well. And I think that leaders today need to really identify a couple of things when it comes to managing self, because that is the core. We do know that. I think we have to go a little bit smarter and a little bit more intellectual, but also a little bit deeper in here. And that is identifying how we operate as human beings on a timeline. So I'm going to kind of stick with me here, guys, okay?
Go.
Walk us through that. I'm very curious about that.
I'm writing it down too.
Think about from a leadership perspective, and I'm talking on the job here, okay? I'm talking behind the desk.
Right.
You think about a leader's role with their team. Everything is based on a timeline. It's based on, what are you doing this week? What are our numbers this month? Where's the pipeline at? What are the milestones in the pipeline?
Right.
Everything is on this linear timeline. Everything. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if we look at this timeline and numbers aren't happening, or we're not, our team aren't performing, it's somewhere on this timeline.
Yeah.
And so if you were to draw a linear line, so we've got a spectrum, or we've got this continuum. At one end, you've got the past, and at the other, you've got the future. Now, if you think about each of us, if we look to the past, and in a leadership role I'm talking about here, and we look at what's not happening, we look at how we protect ourselves. Would you agree?
Always.
Always.
Self-preservation.
Absolutely. So
protection as well that comes through.
What was that?
It's human instinct that comes through to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. So we've got protection at one end of that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And at the other end of the spectrum, we've got control.
Mm-hmm.
So a leader will either be wanting to protect themselves or they'll want to be wanting to control the situation. Does that make sense?
It does.
So where do we fall in that? Or where should we be in that linear type of timeline?
So in order for us to reduce any kind of pressure, we have to actually step out of the timeline.
Mm.
And so what we have to do is we actually need to recognize somewhere on that timeline, and if now we're thinking about revenue and we've got a lack of predictability and we've lost control, numbers aren't being made, we're under scrutiny by ELT or the board or whoever it is. We're waking at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? So we're on the timeline somewhere.
Yeah.
What we've got to do is we've got to recognize that resistance. Now that resistance is on the timeline, but we don't take time out to do that because we're so busy
Right.
on the timeline. So when we recognize that resistance, we've then got to give ourselves the space to do that.
So you're talking about internal resistance, right? Like internal, like yourself as a leader.
Absolutely. And when you can do that, lean into that resistance and then get really honest with yourself, observe yourself.
Right.
Because that's where it happens. And you then it's the ability to get curious.
So a couple of things that you just said there. If I'm going to try to interpret, I love this notion of organizations and teams and leaders slowing down in order to speed up. So I think that's what you're saying is that you kind of have to get yourself off the hamster wheel of busy in order to rectify things and stabilize revenue. So hopefully I got that right. But I do love the idea of slowing down to speed up and getting off the hamster wheel.
But go on, keep going.
The other piece of that, and I love the word curious. I love when people can step back and be curious about themselves, about the client they're sitting across from. So, the notion of curiosity, I think, is super powerful. And the notion of getting off the hamster wheel of busy and slowing down in order to speed up. It's
a little bit more than that as well. You definitely with that curiosity, but the curiosity part is observing yourself, yes, and looking at yourself and thinking, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm in this circumstance. What if something inside this circumstance is actually going to give me an opportunity to take my leadership to another level?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not seeing it yet. Because if I keep going the way I'm going, then I'm just recreating the old.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so how can I recreate the new by looking inside this circumstance,
right,
and looking for an opening that's going to take me to another level of becoming.
Yeah. Here's why I love that, Bernadette, because if we always do what we always did, we'll always get what we always got. We need to change something. And as you say, step out of it and have a look at it and then step into the resistance that you might be seeing as well. These are great points.
The thing is, though, human nature, you've got to recognize that you're always going to rubber band back to the timeline, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The secret is knowing and understanding that returning to the gap gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And that, when you go to the gap, that is momentum.
Right.
The faster you do it is momentum. But if you don't, then you're just waiting all the time and you're just waiting for things to happen. And that is a scarcity mindset.
Yeah. No, definitely want to be proactive in that front. And we need to get leaders to be confident enough and courageous enough to do that regularly.
So
I want to take
that's the first layer. There's 5 layers, by the way, but that is the first layer. You need to actually have that baseline locked and loaded if you want to be a leader that is a sales leader, at least, of influence.
Incredible. Sales leader of influence. Bernadette, I want to take us on another direction for a minute because you are incredible at providing CEOs and sales leaders with the tools, the skills, tools, and knowledge. But you've got a tool as well, and I love this because I went and checked it out, and I know Scott did as well. Tell us about this and how we assess our revenue predictability here. Tell us about this tool, and I put that up so people can grab their phone now, scan that QR code, and it takes you to a website. Tell us about this.
So, okay, so the sales leader of influence is actually, it consists of every leader consists of 5 personas, so to speak. So every leader is a manager of self. Okay. They are a motivator of others. This is a sales leader of influence, is a manager of self. They are a motivator of others. They are a mentor of their team. They are a mobilizer of the business. And they are a multiplier of influence. Every sales leader of influence carries those 5 roles until they are under pressure. And then they drop.
Yep.
Now, the baseline, manager of self, if that is broken, so is leadership.
Okay.
So
right. That's the baseline. How does this tool that people are scanning right now with their phone, taking to the website, help?
So this tool is going to give you, it's not a score. It's not you're a 1 out of 10. This is you'll get a PDF which will let you know across each of those 5 categories, your authority under pressure, your decisions, how you make your decisions and understand how your team and your buyers make decisions.
So we're learning about ourselves as a leader.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's each of those 5 levels. You probably put it up way too early. Each of those 5 levels, and it will let you know where you are stable, where you are exposed, and where you are at risk as a leader. And it will give you why this is important, what you can do next. So it'll give you a printout, a PDF printout. Probably a little bit early, guys. I didn't realize you're going to do that now, but because there's no context behind it. But that's enough context for those of you listening and watching to
you know what's interesting to me about this, as you're describing it, Bernadette, when I was in university a million years ago and I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I'm still struggling with that. Growing up, yes. This is a safe place to share, right? Oh, look at that. Simon says, quick hello, just a break from training. Oh, just a quick hello, taking a break, thought I'd say hi. So that's just Simon in the chat. Yeah, there you go, visual. So what it seems, a lot of people, when they talk about sales, they talk about sort of, strategies and actions and methodologies. But you're talking, you mentioned the word human a few times. You're talking about sort of fear and under pressure. Clearly, you've thought about and researched a lot about sort of, human nature, psychology, well-being, and it seems like that's an influence, to reuse that word, in where you spend your time helping leaders and teams. Is that fair?
Definitely. There's enough people out there that are doing sales training. That was, I've done a lot of that in the past. And that's very, very important. I think, my sweet spot is really in that, intersection of strategy, human psychology, and really bringing to the fore the commercial environment and helping leaders at a human level mix the two. And so execution, definitely. Decision-led revenue, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, bringing into the fact that you need to have a point of view today. And, we're entering a new era where, for you to have any form of credibility within the organization that you have today. You can't just be, you can't just run a team today and hope for the best. You've got to have a point of view. You've got to have credibility. There's lots of leaders out there today that are choosing to leave their role, and they're moving into fractional roles. And they're leaving the organization with no methodologies, with no IP, and tacit knowledge. Businesses are losing leaders that are walking out the door with so much tacit knowledge that the businesses aren't capturing that. And so, level 5 of the sales leader of influence is all about capturing that knowledge for the business and for the leader, so that you can put that into some form of codifying, commercially codifying your IP.
Is that leaving a bit of a legacy?
I was just going to ask that.
That you're growing and working with?
You can look at it that way, but it's really also future-proofing your career as a sales leader.
Right.
And it's also providing or creating an asset for the business.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. It's not just day to day that you're doing. You're creating an asset that, even if you do leave, gets left behind and put in place. Can we dive in just briefly on what you mentioned there? Because I had this written down and I thought it was really interesting. Decision-led revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share a bit more on that? Just expand a little bit on that one point. I don't know what step it is or what layer it is, but that really captured mine and I just want to share that, decisions right now, and good leaders make good decisions. Now, they don't always make the right decision, but they'll make their decision right. So what does decision-led revenue mean specifically?
Well, every minute of the day, we are choosing to do something.
Right.
And, you can make a good decision, and for whatever reason, the result may not be a good result. Or you can make a bad decision, and for whatever reason, Lady Luck steps in and the result is amazing.
Right.
We made a good decision, my husband and I, in buying a business, and I had a forklift accident which put me in bed for a year. We lost the business, we went bankrupt. Lost everything.
Terrible.
That was buying the business a bad decision. So decisions happen every minute of the day.
Right.
So when you look at what I'm calling decision-led revenue, there are decisions that get made and decisions that don't get made in a business. And, I will give you, when we've just spoken in depth before about, the first layer of the sales leader of influence. But the second layer is based on, decisions, for want of a better word, but understanding the psychology behind how you make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, as a leader, do you jump in and help your sales team? Do you want to have everything to do with the sales team? Do you go missing in action?
Mm-hmm.
Do you, when you, a client of mine, I'll give you an example. A client of mine had a guy interview for a job. Right. And the guy said that he wanted to meet. It was local, wanted to meet in person. So the sales leader made a huge assumption and said he didn't think that guy would be a fit because this guy wanted to meet in person. So I had a conversation with my client about decisions and about assumptions.
Yeah.
And I said, what if this guy was really nervous because he had gone into a job previously where he had made a big mistake and couldn't get out of it?
Right.
So anyway, my client interviewed him in person, has ended up onboarding him. Best person for the job. So there's an example of a decision. Now, your salespeople are going out and they are having discovery calls with buyers, and they are not understanding how buyers make decisions, because decisions have nothing to do with the product or the service or the price or anything. People make decisions not based on what they want, but based on what they don't want to lose. Right. So how do you teach your salespeople that?
Right.
Then the other part of all of this is, what are the decisions within the organization that are not being looked at? What are the gaps? Accountability is really just filling gaps. So what are the gaps that your business has that you're not even seeing, that once you do see, you'll never unsee? So decision-led revenue has got nothing to do with who is the decision maker.
Right. Right. Brilliant. No,
and that's the sales leader of influence is really all about this.
Right. Sales leader of influence. Loving this topic right now. Very incredible. And that's really good regarding decision making as well, because everybody does make decisions differently, and leaders have to understand how they make decisions. And maybe, to your point, step out and have a look at that. Am I making decisions properly? Usually we make decisions based on two things: our past, which is all the history that we have, and our gut feel. Those two things usually determine how people make decisions, and maybe there's different ways to do it. Bernadette, I want to jump in quickly here. And you told us something fairly exciting in the green room before we came on here today to the Sales Lab. You've got a book coming out. Now, I don't want to blow the lid off your surprise, but tell us a little bit about the book and what it's going to share with people, because we're going to have you back on and tell us about the book later. But tell us about this book, and having gone through the process of writing a book and the energy it takes and the time and everything like that, what is this book all about?
Well, it's only like the ink is not even, the last words haven't even been finished.
Good.
But it's called Becoming the Sales Leader of Influence. And the tagline is 40 years, 5 choices, 1 truth. It's a book. It's bringing together my genius, my lived experiences. It's raw. It is honest. It has everything. It has everything we've spoken about today. It is not instructional, but it is my voice, and the readers will walk away with ideas woven through my voice and different stories. And it's a journey, and
incredible.
I'm excited by it. So. That says something, but look, it's finished now. I've just finished the manuscript on the weekend. So now I've just got to figure out what to do next. So that's how early it is.
And I'm so glad to hear that it's been written in your voice as well.
Totally.
It's really important nowadays.
Totally.
And my books, it's been out for several years now. We didn't even have the access to the AI that everybody does now. So it's great that it's been written in your voice, and we're excited to learn more about that very soon. So listen, hang on. We've got something coming up right now quickly. What is it?
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for Ricky's recap. Take it away, Ricky.
All right, I will take it away. We've had an incredible day here with Bernadette on our show. And I want to share a few things that she mentioned in recap here. Clarity and momentum really matter. Taking time to reduce the pressure. Bernadette spoke extensively to us about timelines and about becoming a sales leader of influence, and that you need to go a little bit deeper and step out of that timeline and give some space for thought, which I really thought was amazing. And then lean into the resistance that's coming towards you. Always be curious, she said as well. We put up a great barcode, and I hope you grab that, everybody. And I know Bernadette's going to tell us where you can get more of that information from her website as well. But it's going to help you learn about your leadership style. And then we got into the decisions and how they're made. And really how people make decisions is based on what they don't want to lose. Not what they can gain, what they don't want to lose, which is really great. And then finally, which is so exciting, becoming. the name of her book, which will be out very soon. And I know that you'll all want to get a copy of that. Bernadette, where can people find out more information about you, connect with you, and learn some of your genius?
Well, LinkedIn, definitely LinkedIn. Sales Leader of Influence is the site.
Okay.
Bernadette McClelland is my speaker site. They're probably the only places that I hang out. Well, LinkedIn's the only place I hang out. I'm not real good on Instagram or Facebook or any of those, but LinkedIn's where I hang out. So please connect with me there. I would love to just send me a note, and I'd love to take, I talk to people, see what you get. So yeah.
And what we got was incredible. And thank you so much for being on the show. I know if our good friend Simon was here, he'd say that was brilliant. So we'll throw that in for him because we miss Simon. So
I would tell Simon that a month ago I was ziplining.
Ooh.
I was ziplining from Zambia to Zimbabwe across the Zambezi River.
Oh, that's neat.
Wow, look at you, adventurous one.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Living the life, absolutely, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for being on our show today, Bernadette. Scott, putting you on the spot. Who have we got coming up on our next sales?
Actually, next week, and I'm just going to confirm this. Next week, we have your friend, Michael Chung. And I guess that's going to be very, very leadership focused. And that's actually next Friday. Normally we go every 2 weeks, but this time we're going back to back to back. So we got Michael Chung on Friday, Friday the 13th.
Okay. Terrific. Yeah, looking forward to having Michael on. He's an incredible leader, and he's going to share some of what he's been through over the last couple of years in leadership and leading teams through things like acquisition and major change. So we're looking forward to that. Bernadette, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Bernadette. Great to see you again.
Always a pleasure, guys. Loved
Just
it.
wonderful. Everybody go out, connect with Bernadette right now on LinkedIn, and you'll find out so many more incredible things she can share with you. And thank you all for being here on the Sales Slap podcast.
For attending the Sales Slap podcast. Feel free to reach out to your hosts, Rick, Simon, and Scott, and our guests from this episode for more information. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.